Welcome back to Moon Knight Madness, all you Haussmanniacs out there. Let's talk about episode 4. We are going to get to that ending, but first we got to get through the show, just like when you watched it, which I assume you did, so spoilers ahead if you haven't. Probably noticed already that I'm actually wide awake because I didn't wake up in time, so I'm recording this after work. So let's see if me being awake makes any difference at all, or if I still ramble like an idiot. Right off the bat, the episode starts off with Khonshu's statue being placed in wherever it is, and we pull back and we see there are at least 10 other statues there, and I'm right away thinking that there's like a civil war between the gods. Last episode, the gods were kind of like not seeming to be on Khonshu's side, so maybe they're like imprisoning the things, and I don't know, there's only 2 episodes left, and there's something else coming up that I talked about briefly before that I think is going to be a big thing coming. So if there's this civil war amongst the gods that's coming, like there's, I think, more things planned for hopefully season 2 of Moon Knight, or future Moon Knight appearances in movies or whatnot, I'm not sure. I did mention last episode, the thief guy that had all the stuff that they went and saw, the Egyptian collector dude, his name was Mogart. He was actually a character from the comics, I missed it last week. He's the Midnight Man, who, if you have read Doug Moench's original run, he appeared there and then he died. He did have a son who went by Midnight, who became Moon Knight's sidekick for a while, but then he became a bad guy and a cyborg. I don't really think any of that's going to happen here, so don't worry about it, but it did happen. Oscar Isaac is doing an amazing job of making me think these are 2 different people, and they are. They are like 2 different people in the same body. Like, it's I don't know if it's so much a mental illness thing or like just a comic book thing. Like, oh, there's 2 people in the same, well, it's 3 people, I'm pretty sure. But he's just doing a really good job of showing these are different people. And then Layla, like, you can see it in her eyes, like she's attracted. She goes to kiss Steven stops, and then they do have an awkward kiss, but they kiss, and like, oh, you smell like him. Like, I don't know that Layla sees them as 2 different people. Like, Layla is looking, and it'd be really hard to do, like, to look at someone who you've known as something, see them as something different, but Layla sees them as the same person. She's like, oh, this Steven is just a piece of Mark's mind, which I think he is. Like, it's clearly evident that Steven is Layla. Like, Steven is Mark's idea of Layla. He's got all the stuff that she likes, her favorite poetry, the studying Egyptology and all that stuff. Mark created Steven based off of Layla, I think, which is why Steven's in love with Layla. To belay is to secure a climbing rope. Basically, you secure it before you go down. That's belay. Thought I would save you Google there, because I did have to Google it. And they go down into the tomb. He falls down in, like, right beside the clearly open stairs. There's stairs, and there's natural light. A lot of natural light in the tomb. Stuff in the tomb was really fun. Just seeing Steven, like, nerding out about all the stuff he was seeing was really good, till he got scared. Bunch of stuff happened. A bunch of stuff happened. Like, there were, mummy men mummifying people and ripping out their organs and stuff. So, I mean, this is kind of getting real. It was a really good episode. I enjoyed it. We did get the backstory. Mark was like, yep, I was working with some mercenaries and one of them killed your father, probably Bushman. Setting, like, once again, that's another story that they're setting up for the future, having the whole Bushman thing, but confirming his backstory. Like, he says he was supposed to die that night. I guess he doesn't straight up say that's when Khonshu resurrected him, but he did. And it just makes me wonder. I've said it before and I'm saying it again. Like, why isn't Layla just Marlene? Like, she has Marlene's backstory. She has everything. Why isn't she Marlene? I don't understand why you can't just call the character Marlene, because it is Marlene. There's a lot of good stuff happening, and I guess we'll get right to it. He gets shot and seemingly dies, and then there's that ending where he wakes up in the insane asylum, and you're wondering, like, what is going on? And there was a comic book, Jeff Lemire, I believe, did it. It was the whole thing, like, Moon Knight was in an insane asylum, and all this was fabricated, and were any of his adventures real, or were they all going on in his head, in this insane asylum, because he's a crazy person? And we go in there, and we see Donna, and we see Crawley, or whoever that statue dude is, we see Layla, like, we see all these people, and they're all in the insane asylum, and maybe he's just fabricating it all together, and Stephen Grant is a Indiana Jones character from a movie, like a Indiana Jones romancing the stone. It makes you really think, but then, like, you get in there, and I don't know, I think they could have maybe ended it sooner to leave us with a week thinking of that, because I'm fairly certain that's not the case. Because he goes and he finds Mark, finds Steven, so there's 2 identities in there. There's a 3rd sarcophagus, which I'll get to in just a second. And then, like, they're running around in there like that. I think he's dead. I think they've died. I think they were shot and they died. And this is kind of like a placeholder afterlife type deal for them, that he's maybe fabricating some of in his head and putting it together, and it's just like a limbo thing. And then that hippopotamus god lady is about to resurrect him again, and she's going to be on Khonshu's side in this whole civil war, and she's like, no, I gotta bring you back, we gotta save Khonshu. But there's only 2 episodes left, and that's just introducing something new like this is crazy. But Moon Knight is crazy, and it's crazy awesome. Like I said, I wish, if that's the direction they go, I wish they just lingered a bit. I kind of just wish he woke up in the insane asylum and maybe had a little bit of it, not the whole thing. I wish this episode ended before he found Steven's body in that sarcophagus, just to leave us thinking a bit more. The hippopotamus is Taweret, the goddess of fertility. I have no idea what that means. I haven't read everything in the comics, so I'm not familiar with her from the comics. But like I said, I believe he's dead again, and she is going to bring her back, maybe as the Taweret avatar for a bit, until they can get Khonshu back. Not sure, but it's okay. Like, the third sarcophagus. I talked about this last week. Like Jake Lockley. Jake Lockley is 100% in that third sarcophagus. And Jake Lockley is this third persona. He was the cab driver, but he's like the gruff guy. And lately, like, he is the brawler. He is the wild card. I don't know why I said it like that. Well, I do know why I said it like that. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But he is the wild card. He is this ace in the hole that I guess they don't even realize they have. Like, you got Steven for the smarts, you got Mark for the sneaking around spy stuff, but when you just need a absolute scrapper brawler, you pull out Jake Lockley. I think that's where this show's going. I'm not even sure Mark knows Jake Lockley's in there, but Jake Lockley's gonna come out, and I feel like, fingers crossed, Jake Lockley's gonna have the traditional Moon Knight costume that I love. There was no Moon Knight costume in this episode at all. I don't know. I am super stoked for episode 5. Yeah, coming up in the future, in the next 2 episodes of Moon Knight, I feel like definitely Jake Lockley. I feel like Egyptian god civil war. And 2 things I still think would be awesome but might not happen would be George Clooney as Frenchie. I keep saying that every week because if and when it does happen, you heard it here first. The other thing I think might be really cool is if we get some hints towards Ramatat. Like, they're in all this ancient Egyptian stuff. Give us something with Ramatat. Ramatat in the comics was Kang the Conqueror at a different point in time. If you remember Loki, the Loki series, at the end there was that gentleman, He Who Remains, who was like the whole guy pulling all the strings, the Time Masters or whatever they were called. The guy that was left, Jonathan Majors, was the actor. That is a version of Kang, and I think Kang is being one of the people they're setting up going forward as one of the big bads, the new Thanos, as it were. Basically, in the comics, he is a descendant of Reed Richards, and he, like, does all this time travel stuff because he wants to rule. And at one point when he was younger, he was like, oh, I'm going to go rule ancient Egypt. And he went back in time and was Ramatat. And Ramatat had run-ins with Khonshu and the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and Apocalypse. Anything in ancient Egypt, Ramatat was involved. And then he went on later to become Kang, and at some point in the future becomes Immortus, and at some other point was Iron Lad. I think he's going to have his fingerprints all over the movies coming up forward. And I just think it'd be really cool if we get some hints towards Ramatat. And then, like, people will be like, oh, hey, that's Kang the Conqueror. He's going to be in the movies. You can just have some little free Haas knowledge there and look like a smarty pants. Anyway, that's what I think and hope might be coming forward with Moon Knight. I got up early in the morning and watched this, and I watched it again. So I've watched it twice now. I don't know, I'm still rambling pretty good, but I feel like maybe I'm a little more coherent than I am in the morning. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Also, the Thor trailer came out, and I don't really have a lot to say on it. I'm very excited for it. Taika Waititi doing these Thor movies is like just a match made in heaven. I think it's going to be amazing. And then I think with Natalie Portman, Jane Foster as Thor, just ripped. And then She-Hulk is coming out. Like, as a guy who is kind of attracted to women with, like, buff physiques, it's a good time to be me. Anyway, I'll catch you next week. Subscribe. Hey, like this video. Subscribe. The end.